People were replacing water with vodka for all animal in the house, few birds, dog, and a hamster. I told the guy who was holding the party. He did nothing. Just laughing. I removed the vodka and put water back myself. Seriously. Duck those guys. My sister got too drunk at a party. She fell into a bonfire and degloved both of her hands. Degloved is probably the most appropriately horrifying word used to describe any injury. The thought of your skin just sliding off your hands. I feel so bad for your sister just reading that sentence. I work in EMS. Obviously in the profession we see a lot and get hardened to most of it. But almost everyone in the job still shudders and becomes uncomfortable with the degloving. It's also the main reason most of us refuses to wear wedding bands on the job. We had just finished a round of King's Cup and there was a lull. The cup was full of beer, Smirnoff, margarita, and a bunch of other shit. We played with 2 decks. We didn't really finish and it kind of just ended. I didn't want people to get bored so I shouted, "Last one in the bathroom has to drink the King's Cup." There was a ducking stampede of about 20 people in my house. First person in broke the door handle and flew into the shower doors that buckled and busted into the bathtub. Second person, my sister, tried to stop and I slammed into her, causing person 1 to fling into the shower. My sister and I crashed down to the ground and I saw why she had to stop. My female roommate was trying to take a shit. My sister laughed so hard she pissed herself while I was sitting on her lap. Oh, and about 8 more people piled in and landed on top of us. It was great. A drunk guy threw his plastic cup into the pool when he finished his drink. And the guy whose party it was went off. Turned off the stereo. Got everyone's attention and gave a mental lecture about not throwing anything into the pool. Within 4 minutes everything was in the pool. Plates, glasses, furniture, books etc. And worst of all, about 2 dozen pot plants. I saw a girl eating a sandwich in the corner of a party with a dog watching. The dog kept going in to take bites of the sandwich and this led to the girl drunkenly moving it at the last second to make out with the dog. It happened for a good 5 minutes. I put down my drink and left right then. Friends were drunk. Shirts off. Jumping over the fire pit. At night. Everybody having good time. The 2 people taking turns jumping couldn't see each other on their last go so they ran and jumped at the same time. They met mid-air. Over the fire pit. One of them got knocked to the side. The other fell on his back right into the fire. Mind you, without a shirt. We rushed drunkenly to get him out because he was yelling and trying to move out himself but couldn't. Would up needing skin graft on his back. Looked horrible. Still looks bad. Friend tells me, "Hey, if you see me running you should run too." That's awfully concerning. Why is that? People are coming that have beef with my friend here. They're strapped apparently. Strapped as in have real guns? Yes. Okay. Well then why don't we leave right now? I couldn't get my 2 drunkies. I was DD. Because one was talking to a girl and the other was nowhere to be found. Eventually people start flooding outside to see a fist fight. Fight turns into guy pulling his piece out and firing into the direction of someone. 3 people get hit. This was in like super white people suburbia too. No one died but photos circulated of the people who got hit in the wounds, hand, leg, and leg. I saw the hand one from afar. Shit is crazy. Later found out it was over a girl and $50. In high school I saw a guy be encouraged to chug a whole big bottle of tequila. Later that night I found him passed out on a mattress away from everyone else. I talked to him to get him to tell me he was okay. He stood up, did the robot and fell back asleep. He left in an ambulance. He blew a .28. Child drowning. My apartment overlooks the pool area. And there was a birthday party for an 8-year-old just setting up. While the 4 or 5 adults were setting up the tables. The 10 or 12 kids all piled into the hot tub right next to them. One child ended up on the bottom right at everybody's feet. But couldn't be seen. Eventually one of the kids felt her down there. And the screaming began. That's when I first looked outside and watched the rest of the tragedy unfold. Police. Paramedics. etc. The little girl did not survive. One of my buddies was passed out drunk late into a high school party. Started around 4 and at about 8 PM the kid's stepdad, who owned the house, showed up and started drinking with the kids for a bit. All my buddy remembers is being woken up by his panicked friends and rushed out of the house and driven home. The kid's stepfather had a few beers, came into the living room where everyone was, and blew his brains out on the couch with a shotgun. When I was around 10, my dad hosted a birthday party for one of his good friends whose boyfriend was proposing that night. The boyfriend even hired a mariachi band from out of town to play. Lots of people drinking and dancing. I don't remember why, but boyfriend pissed at the girlfriend shortly after proposing and they went outside to argue. We hear screaming and everyone ran outside to see him. Who's drunk and ate the worm. Driving away and she's running after him. Next thing we know we hear more yelling outside. Everyone runs outside again to see 2 of the mariachi band members fist fighting. Just the sight of seeing 2 mariachi band players in full costume fist fighting on my dad's front lawn will forever be engraved in my mind. Soon after the mariachi players left, leaving one of the fighters. My dad offered to drive him where he needed, but he just left and we see him walking into the darkness. Edit, my first gold. Thanks. In high school I moved to a new school. A tia was showing me around the campus and we sort of hit it off. She invited me to a party that weekend. It was pretty standard fare of underage drinking and cheaty music. That is until the girl who invited me got super hammered. She was walking around the party basically throwing herself at anyone and everyone. After she got upset no one would take her upstairs, she walked to the middle of the room and called for attention. She immediately chugged the rest of her beer, dropped her pants and stuck the beer bottle up her ass. There was like 20 people around her just aghast at what happened. Still remember it vividly after 12 years. Watched my tough guy buddy try to pick a fight with a visiting tough guy from another town. My friend instantly caught a jumping Van Damme spin kick to his head, knocking him temporarily blind. Saw another friend get bit on the neck by a dude while trying to break up a fight. We had to take him to emergency for the bleeding tooth marks in his neck. Another friend was stabbed in the throat at a bush party. He was fine, but it was close and the stabber caught a boot ducking and his truck was parked on a fire pit. Another guy caught stitches trying to break a glass bottle over his own head. 2 girls in a savage fight that left both of them missing teeth and bleeding profusely. But I also saw lots of bobs and girls making out and whatnot. It's all about balance in a small town. Party host ended up beating a friend of mine for puking on his porch. Before the guy could finish asking for stuff to clean it up, the host went to his room, grabbed brass knuckles and beat his face in. There was blood everywhere. I don't remember doing this, but I made our other friend give me his shirt and held it to his face and we took him to the hospital. Later learned host was doing coke in the back alone. Guy had to have facial reconstruction surgery. He has a very different face now. A friend of mine organized a house party when he was 15 and told a bit too many people about it. It got gate crashed and I saw the following: pets in the fridge, smashed mirrors, cut up furniture, people having sex everywhere, copious amounts or drew gas and alcohol, doors pulled of hinges, jewelry stolen, numerous people passed out, smashed windows, a turd of his sister's pillow and piss on her bed, writing carved in walls. None of what was damaged was claimable on their insurance either. Welp. Guy had a party at his grandma's apartment that faced a busy street. After a few too many, he decides to moon passing cars, as went through the glass. His friend caught him before he fell through. Party over while Moon Man went to the hospital. Watched a guy play stupid games with a 5-pound can of black powder and a lighter and turn into a human fireball, then spend a week in the burn ward at Boston before dying. There was a girl in the bathroom that had too much to drink. I heard her go silent, so I opened the door. I see a dude standing over her undoing his belt. I said, "What the duck are you doing?" He was saying something along the lines of, "Nah man, it's cool." I threw him into the wall and then threw him outside the bathroom. He was then escorted by a few party members and thrown outside into the snow. I carried the girl into the nearest bed and made sure the house owners knew she was there. To this day, she has no idea what happened that night. I see her on social media still and she seems to have a great life. I'm just glad that nothing happened to her. Went to a friend's Christmas party when I was 10. My whole family was invited. Santa came and handed out presents to all of the kids there. My sister's friend got a beautiful amethyst necklace that her parents purposely broke the necklace within the first few minutes she had it. Not me, but my cousin was at a Halloween school party years ago. Some local delinquents turn up and a girl gets slapped. Next thing you know, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Captain America and the Pope are kicking the shit out of said delinquents. A guy was drunk and ate a hot dog at a house party I was at. An hour goes by and the guy is nowhere to be found. 10 minutes of searching later and a couple of my buddies found him dead on the back porch. He had choked to death on a hot dog just outside of a room full of people. We think he started choking and went outside to try and get some air and was too drunk to do anything about it. That night was no good. A lot of people had way too much alcohol and were waiting in line for the toilet to puke. Amazing that they thought this would be a good idea. One of them couldn't hold it in any longer. He had to puke. So he puked on someone else's back. The smell and the sound was so bad that someone else also started puking. Shortly after that, about 15 people were puking around in the hallway. This was so disgusting. They were kneeling in puke. When the guy in the toilet finished and came out, he had the best look on his face. Luckily I didn't drink that night. In high school I walked in on a dude banging my ex-girlfriend, who I was still in love with. I lost complete control and tried to fight a naked man who was mid-coitus. Looking back as a more mature person, I should have done the courteous thing and let him finish before fighting him. One dude was noticeable drunk very early. Like 30 minutes into partying and he was already gesticulating wildly with his hands and speaking loud af. We celebrated our friend's 20th birthday and he got a vase from one dude. We immediately lit it up and gave it around so everyone got a hit. The special dude broke it before giving it to the last person. Poor Johnny got no hit. But that's not all. Special dude went to toilet and after not coming back after 30 minutes, me and party host went to check if the toilet is more interesting than our party. Special dude wasn't there. But he left vomit and poop all over the sink, shower, toilet and wall. He must have used his hands to smear it in all these spots. Most disgusting thing ever experienced. The booze ran out. It stopped being a party at that point and was just a gathering. Had a few drinks at my cousin's house. Cousin's girlfriend starts sitting on every guy's lap, which led to one of them telling my cousin that his girlfriend is too flirtatious, and that ends up spiraling into an argument, which leads to the cousin's girlfriend jumping into the car out the front drunk out of her mind and trying to drive into my cousin and the other guy to stop them arguing. Was quite surreal watching it all play out, but the cops eventually showed up and no one managed to get seriously messed up except for a few bruises. But what a night that was. Someone fell through a glass top table and badly slashed their arms. Blood everywhere. Some guy got into an argument with his girlfriend and punched her in the face. I stepped in before he could hit her again and realized everyone was just walking away or inciting him to hit her or me. Good thing he was a rich that was only tough when it came to beating women. I never associated with anyone at that party again. Work party and one of the workers got wasted. As in stumbling around could barely talk straight. He thought it would then be a good idea to go up to his boss and tell her that she was an idiot and didn't know what she was doing. Funny part was, she thought it was funny. But the guy did not show up for work for a week. One of the guys photoshopped his picture on the pic of a milk carton, printed a bunch out and posted them around the office. It was awesome. He came back, apologized, kept his job for a bit longer but ended up leaving. Someone locked themselves in the toilet. Well, what do you do when you need to go and you're out of options? Pee out the window. We were on the 5th floor. Lots and lots of attempted grape. There are some guys who would see a passed out woman and think that's prime opportunity right there. Pick them up off the couch or whatever and try to carry them off. Like it was no big deal. My friend pissed in a beer bottle. Gave it to an extremely drunk girl. Who drank the whole thing. Friend's 18th, legal age here. Started at 5. Went until 12. A grand old time was had by all. Especially the new 18-year-old. He had been drinking a lot of straight vodka. I'm talking well over half the bottle in 3 hours. As any self-respecting 18-year-old would do. He disregarded his parents' advice to stop drinking. He was laughing and staggering around. And then he collapsed. Alive. But do for the rest of the night. He was with his nurse mother who kept his head tilted. At 8 PM. The man barely got through half of his 18th. For the rest of the time. The rest of us sat around the charcoals of the bonfire, which at its peak was so big and hot that you needed to be a solid 15-20 meters away. Occasionally we would hear what must have just been air escaping his lungs. And then a very loud hiccup. Then he got wheeled by his parents and brother back to their house in a wheelbarrow while we shouted the happy birthday song to him. Pretty bad from his perspective. Ducking gold from ours. I was upstairs at this party playing a piano for whatever reason. And there was one of the biggest guys in our year passed out on the floor. He was a big dig and seemed alright, so I left him. After about 20 minutes someone else comes up and shouts holy duck. Tom shit himself. And proceeds to run back down to collect everyone. Once they've arrived to observe. The smell hits them. And everyone runs back down. Gagging. The girl who was hosting the party called the guy's gran to come and get him. Which he starts to protest to once he wakes up. His gran arrives. And is ducking furious. She's this tiny 4 feet 10 inches woman. Screaming at her massive 6-foot rugby player drumca's grandson. 10 minutes of this. And they decide to leave. Now. The stairs in this place are real steep. And Tom can't walk very well at the minute. As he's descending. He falls. Right onto my friend, stick thin girl. Weights 110 pounds max. Fully takes her out. Now remember, Tom shit himself. And he has landed directly on top of my friend. Turns out, the sheet had evacuated his clothing. All over my friend. She vomited. 3 other people proceed to vomit on them. And Tom's gran drags her disgrace of a grandson home. Edit, screwed up a height detail. In sophomore year of college my friends and I held a pig roast. My freshman year roommate who was a strange guy and who had not been invited shows up. Completely plastered. He goes on a drunken rant about not being invited. Grabs a knife. And cuts out the pig's asshole. And eats it. As we stood there staring at him in shock and horror. He ran away. He is now known as Pig Asshole Guy whenever we reminisce about college.